Yeah, so we're live right now.
That want to be entrepreneurs and that they succeed. So there's definitely going to be a lot of casualties, I think, in the space, as people also say. But in the case of PFL and Border League, I think we've encountered really like solid management teams with that are building real businesses for which is real user demand, and where they're building IP for the long term, and they own that IP, and they have the ability to control an ecosystem end to end, that they're building a direct relationship
All right,
with the
here.
user base.
Just setting up here.
From an internet background, that's very valuable to us, like speaking to businesses where there's where there's an understanding of the end user, and it simply just sounds obvious, but just people who are looking to create value for their customers, right? And we found that with great entrepreneurs and management teams at both Border and PFL.
Well, Steve, there's no question the impact cord cutting has been having on media, and media rights and broadcast rights writ large. And I believe that's how you and Don got to know each other a bit, right? By when PFL was negotiating its African broadcast rights, and I think that's what led to your investment in the league, if I'm not mistaken. Talk to us a little bit about what that experience was like. Now, for our audience, in addition, 885, you own Africa's largest sports book, SportyBet and Sporty TV, and talk to us a little bit about your approach to investing in the world of sports and what drew you to Don.
Yeah, of course. As you know, I'm come from more of an operator background and have built multitude of businesses from scratch, including Sporty Group, but also numerous kind of fintechs across emerging markets, including Africa and Latin America. As you said, we encountered John. I think we encountered Don because of a relatively small broadcast deal, actually, that brought PFL to our attention, and obviously we found it fascinating that PFL, an American New York headquartered company, had the bravery to go to somewhere like Africa and seek to build something, a local league from scratch, right? Because that takes long-term vision. That takes, really a lot of grit and kind of visionary thinking. So that definitely drew us to the project. But of course, you can always partner with a project or just simply, take a more short-term outlook. In the case of 885 Capital, it's an independent investment firm owned by us and makes independent decisions. So obviously, the introduction came, or the way we met PFL was through the fact that we own one of Africa's largest free-to-air sports broadcaster. But then we started to explore PFL for its own merits, right? Not just because of its Africa project, but really actually more because of its global ambitions, because of the category, because of the management team, and yeah, I mean, that it was an interesting. Don Davis is an interesting character, a polarizing one, but I really enjoy getting to know him, and I think it's going to be entertaining having this chat with him.
That's a compliment from a fellow entrepreneur.
I was going to ask how you liked that categorization there, Don. Don, Sadiq had said a lot there about how PFL is building this global brand, and I heard you say in an interview earlier this year, I believe, that you think the big four in North America is eventually going to be the NFL, NBA, Premier League, and MMA. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on when you're building out a global brand and you're having these deep studies in the Middle East and other places, how you think that's going to help build the league here as well and stamp the North American, platform and grow that as well when you're competing with domestic leagues here?
Yeah, like Sadiq, I'm an entrepreneur, but unlike Sadiq, who's young at 39, I'm 62. So I've lived through three major disruptive cycles on the digital side. I was at AOL in the formative period of Internet 1.0, mid-90s. Money always follows consumer behavior. So money always follows eyeballs and audience. MMA has the third largest audience in the world today, 650 million fans, trails only soccer and basketball. But the money hasn't followed because MMA is only a 30-year-old sport. All other sports are about 100 years old. So we know that MMA will be a much bigger commercial business. It just takes time. No different from in 1997 at AOL. People are still putting money in magazines, publishing. You know that's going to change because of behavior. It just took 10 years after that period for that to happen. So this will happen. I'm not smart enough to know is it 2 years or 7 years, but the money has already started to move as evidenced by the massive UFC Paramount deal and also some of the other sponsorships that will follow. So MMA will be there. The only two MMA companies are UFC and PFL because of the athlete base. Those are the only two companies that have top athletes. And the global distribution base. Those are the only two companies that have global distribution. So while we love partnering with Steve and others like them is they're going where the puck is going. yes, football, basketball, baseball, those are great investments. They'll make 4-6% a year. But how do you make 5 or 10 times your money if you take a 20-year horizon? You have to think different. You don't make 5 or 10 times your money by not thinking differently, and all the trends tell you MMA is it.
And we hit the point, Don, where if you're in sports, venture capital is critical to the whole thing in order to see a profit or to invest in the team itself.
Yes, and I'll answer that 2 ways. Private equity money, or call it big traditional money, is essential to the bigger sports because they need to build bigger complexes, bigger entertainment to support their sports. That's why you're seeing basketball sell at record numbers of $5 billion. They need broader revenue streams, but that's private equity. Emerging sports, like the PFL or others, need venture capital because they're not going to be profitable for a while. So they need true builders, true visionaries, like the Deep and 885, like some of our other investors, Nighthead Capital. So I say, yes, you need capital to build companies, but it's 2 very different kinds of capital. Traditional billions will go into the big 4 and call it those who are looking for outsized returns or builders will be the venture capitalists that go into the emerging leagues.
And Sadiq, can you expand more on that?
Yeah, honestly, like I don't think too much about the types of capital. You know, I guess that John obviously has been through an incredible journey with PFL, and he's had to, keep finding ways for companies to survive and raise.
What do you feel when you stick your hand in your pockets, huh?
That's taken to get this far.
What do you feel?
I like to build stuff, and I like to just think about we focus on not thinking about the fundraising for the company. Obviously, where we have capital, we just like to look at a company that's creating value for customers, right? Like as in whatever capital makes sense, whoever's is it a convenient source of capital? Is it on the right terms? And as that an investor that's creating value, right? Like I don't think it matters. Like what does venture mean, right? Because they'll get outsized returns. I'm not even thinking. I don't think we're even thinking or trying to project.
What do you feel?
Specific returns. I think we're just thinking like, is there demand for this? Like who are the other players? Like can this team succeed? Like it's clear that there's an opportunity to can this team succeed? Does it have the assets and does it have the runway to succeed? And like obviously we hope that other co-investors have that same mindset and are just focused on creating value and not being disruptive. And I think actually there are the guys that are supporting PFL today are like Tom mentioned, Nighthead and others are already.
Do you feel cash?
I think there's a bright future ahead.
Our thanks to 885 Capital founder and managing partner Sandeep Ramnani and PFL founder and chairman Don Davis for joining.
Come on, entertain me. Entertain me.
Part of NFL superstar Travis Kelce's success also
For Bloomberg Business of Sports, Damian Sassower and Vanessa Perdomo, I'm Michael Barr. You are listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports, Bloomberg Radio around the world.
The Big Take.
Oh, boy.
Podcast from Bloomberg and iHeartRadio, highlighting the best reporting by Bloomberg News from around the globe.
That's another funny guy. You think you're a funny guy, huh?
Each week, to one important story and tell you why it matters.
We've been talking about the Federal Reserve.
There could be this shadow picture. Listen to
Is that who is that?
iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, the Bloomberg Business app, or wherever you listen.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute.
The actual experience of building there can be equated to what it takes to be successful in business.
Who is that? 960? Who's 960?
Can go to build their own stuff today.
Who is that?
Been on a tear. CEO Sharon Price John took over in 2013 when Build-A-Bear was in need of some work. He had lost $48 million and 20% of its stores were not turning a profit. Today, Price John tells Business Week, nearly every company-owned Build-A-Bear workshop is now profitable.
We try to create a really collaborative experience.
Yeah, who is that 960?
An ability to bring forward ideas.
And Build-A-Bear is affected by tariffs. The company reported an estimated $11 million hit, and still it was able to increase its guidance for the thanks to a strong first half.
If you can recognize that it's probably going to be a long game and you have your heart in what you're doing, you're really increasing your odds.
Price John says,
Your name is Hello?
you do. Maybe more.
Hello?
Radio, on demand, and in your podcast feed.
That's your name, huh?
Business Week Daily Podcast.
Hello?
Senior lecturer in political science at Columbia University on why U.S.
Ukraine to still be in the neighborhood of Russia and a close ally of Russia, and that means an authoritarian kind of oligarchic state. It doesn't mean a member of
What are you up
the
to tonight?
or NATO or democracy.
Where are you from and what are you up to tonight?
So keeping the West out of Ukraine is the fundamental goal. And then there's this personal element as well. Personal oligarchic friends of Putin who were expelled from positions of power in Ukraine over the past few years, as well as this concept that Ukrainians are not a nation.
How old am I?
And they don't deserve statehood. They are little brother Slavic, little brothers.
How old am I?
They're kidnapping children and taking Ukrainian children and saying you're actually Russian.
Does it make you think differently about the U.S. relationship with Russia?
It has worsened the U.S. relationship with Russia. It was already an adversarial relationship, but now it's...
How old are you?
We see Americans arrested and used as just pawns in trades that Russia, as political prisoners. We see lack of any kind of diplomacy with regard to other countries in the world or other formerly common interests that the U.S. and Russia shared. So we seem to be enduring a kind of deep freeze.
How did you get around?
A kind of ceasefire peace agreement is going.
How did you get around the adult? The adult barrier? Because I specifically said that my channel is for adults only. It's not for kids.
Listen anytime on the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com. I'm Michelle Hussein. Have you listened to the Michelle Hussein Show yet? In this podcast, I speak with people like Elon Musk.
I think I've done enough.
And Shonda Rhimes. That's so cute. This will be a place where every weekend you can count on one essential conversation to help make sense of the world. So please join me, listen and subscribe to the Michelle Hussein Show for Bloomberg Weekend, wherever you get your podcast.
You said they ask interesting questions.
Now, a sports update on Bloomberg 11.
Oh boy.
Devils and Rangers both come up short on back-to-backs. New Jersey falls at home to Philadelphia, while Tampa Bay got the best of the Blue Shirts downtown at the Garden. NBA, the Nets lost in Milwaukee. Zaire Williams was a lone starter in double figures. He had only 10 points. Former Mets reliever Ryan Helsley inks a 2-year deal with Baltimore in college football. Both Rutgers and Syracuse fell. That's your Bloomberg Sports Update. I'm Rob Bushka.
This is Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
This is the Bloomberg Business of Sports, where we explore the big money issues in the world of sports. I'm Michael Barr.
I'm Daniel Saffow.
And joining us for this conversation is friend of the show, Bloomberg U.S. sports business reporter, Randall Williams.
Athletes today are going beyond endorsements and media appearances. Travis Kelce is a great example of a current NFL star that is looking to make himself into a cultural and business powerhouse beyond sports.
Andre Haynes is one of the guys behind the curtain helping Travis Kelce. He's co-head of 3 Art Sports and joins us now to discuss the evolving business of being a multi-platform superstar. Andre, welcome to the Bloomberg Business of Sports.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You are advice to athletes. It used to be the big thing was get an endorsement because you're going to get some money. Now you're saying, look, it's equity over endorsements. Explain that, please.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where this industry is evolving. It's changing a lot, and I think athletes are starting to recognize the value that they can bring to a lot of these consumer brands and products and things they promote and endorse. So oftentimes, you have to. It's a learned behavior, right? You have to go through a career where you understand what it's like to be a brand ambassador. You understand what it's like to promote products, being on set, shooting commercials, doing interviews, and really being a very value-add partner to the working with. And then I think that is what gives, clients the ability to own their own brands, build their own products, and create their own things, but I think it's something you have to go through, right? We work with a lot of clients. We've been in this business for a very long time, and credit to the clients, the guys that came before us, that, the LeBrons of the world, the Kevin Durants of the world, that really set the tone for athlete ownership and being, and I quote, more than an athlete.
Andres Randall Williams here, and I'll start by giving you a hard time because I've been trying to get in touch with you for a very, very long time, and I thought, because I'm from Ohio just like you, I thought that there might be a special place for me, but, that's neither here nor there. What part of Ohio, I have to ask? I'm from Columbus. Okay, very nice. Very nice. You're from Cincinnati, I think I know that pretty well, right? So, from Cleveland. Okay. Went to St. Edward High School in Cleveland. Gotcha. And went down to Cincinnati, went to school there, graduated there. Spent a lot of time there, for sure. So let's stay in Ohio and talk about arguably your most popular client, and maybe that isn't an argument at all, but Travis Kelce. Earlier this year, you negotiated a 9-figure deal that is absolutely monumental. I mean, you don't see that from athletes too often. You see a lot of deals that are out there, but of course with that huge number, I wonder what went into that, how much work they put in, and from your vantage point, how easy was it? Because I imagine with all of the hype around the Kelces the last couple of years, that maybe this wasn't as difficult as it may have been. Nice. But now we're referring to podcasts. Yep. Okay, so that was a couple years ago. But I would say it's one of those things where, it was when athlete podcasting was becoming a thing a couple years back. And I think one of the things that we wanted to make sure was that the brothers knew the amount of time and attention that it was going to take to be able to be successful in the space. And we didn't rush it. We spent years meeting with companies, meeting with producers to understand what the landscape looks like and how we can best position our clients to be successful. And I think that was a key difference in why they were able to become successful. There's a lot of athlete podcasts out there, but their dynamic is insane. Their brothers and their chemistry also insane, and it also helps. The year we launched the podcast, they both made it to Super Bowl, so it put a lot of eyeballs on what they were doing, and the weekly banter and conversations is something that I think a lot of people can resonate with, and it worked from there. But I think it goes back to our pitch always having ownership, right? The brothers own the rights. That is their IP. We help them create the IP, but they own it. And I think their ability to be able to build something like that for their family is ultimately what drove us to be able to work with Wondery and be able to negotiate a deal of that magnitude. Andre, you've been representing athletes forever, right? I mean, A&A Management recently acquired, I think earlier this year, by 3R Sports. You've worked with, Spotify, Hugo Boss, Louis Vuitton, EA Sports, you name it. Let's go back to growing up with parents on 17 Burger King franchises in Cleveland and Cincinnati and Atlanta, I believe. And, take us back, take us to those days and how that prepared you to deal with some of these, large partners that, you guys at the startup have really gotten close to. And I mean, kudos to you all for doing it. But I mean, what did you learn from those early years? We come from an entrepreneur family. I think we spent a lot of time in the back of Burger King, in the offices, right, and watched our mom and dad, manage and build the business. We were involved in their expansion to Atlanta. We were involved in the expansion to Cincinnati. When I say involved, we're in the back, when they would go visit sites and meet with people to kind of build and grow the business and things like that, right? We didn't know what was going on. We were kids, right? But with our ability to be able to be exposed to that type of lifestyle at such a young age, I think resonates with how we work now, right? We watched our parents do the work. We watched our parents walk the sites. We watched our parents go through things they had to go through, managing, a franchise like Burger King in the early 90s, and one of the things that, stands out to me the most is a lot of my dad's partners were Browns players, Indians players, and we got to go hang out with Indians pitchers and their families, and we would go hang out, and we'd go to Detroit with the, special place play for the business. I was at the 04 Pistons finals, when I was a child, right? It's just looking back, it was one of those things where I'm like, you never know, the rooms that you're in and why you're in those rooms, but I think that was what propelled us into being 14 years ago when athlete management wasn't a thing. It was always agents were doing this and doing everything, right? Where we were like, no, let's flip that. We think we can be more managers. We can help them build businesses. We can help them, create strategy around the things that they want to do, right? And we grew up without social media. We didn't even know what social media was, right? I think Facebook was just coming into play when I was headed to college. So, being able to, come up with social media strategies, digital media strategies, the lack of gravity, or even more than that, the lack of atmosphere, the lack of atmospheric pressure, it makes it difficult. Why an astronaut's spacesuit, so his body doesn't fall apart when he exits the spacecraft.
Charlie, a very apropos question for our special guest. Rod, take it away.
Well, as I wrote that 2019 book, Space 2.0, Space Hates People, it really does. So, and you kind of had the answer in your question. So, we're perfectly evolved to exist at sea level on Earth. One gravity, as we measure it, roughly 14 pounds per square inch of atmospheric pressure, temperature extremes ideally between like 50 and 80 degrees, and so on and so on. So we are set for that. You take us out into space, once you leave the atmosphere, because there is no more atmosphere, there's a hard vacuum. So as you see in the movies, you open the door of that spacecraft and suddenly...
This is an adult-rated channel.
Oil, but they also freeze.
You're not allowed here.
And you're outgassing like crazy. So basically, they make it kind of extreme. You don't exactly explode, but your mucous membrane certainly will begin to turn inside out. You die very quickly. So spacesuits contain that pressure. They're pressurized, so they basically hold you in enough pressure, about 5 pounds per square inch in that case, because that's all you need, so that you don't suffer those physical effects. But there is more. The temperatures in space, the lit side of your body, if you're orbiting outside a spacecraft or standing on the surface of the moon, your lit side can be up to 250 degrees hot. Your dark shadowed side can be like 200 degrees Fahrenheit plus zero.
That's not good.
So you've got to have some kind of cooling system in there. The Apollo astronauts had coolant running through plastic tubes that surrounded them, and that was operated by their backpack. So you've got to keep those temperatures balanced. And finally, the hardest thing is protect from radiation. There's a lot of hard radiation the second you leave the Earth's magnetosphere and atmosphere. So you have to, at some point, if you're going to be out there for a long time, the Apollo flights were short, a couple weeks at most. But if you're going to be going, say, to Mars, or you're going to be on a moon station for months at a time, now you got to worry about radiation. So we're bags of wet meat. We don't do well in space unless we take an awful lot of interventions.
Charlie, you get the last word in this dialogue. Very good question from you. I hope it's been answered.
Yes, it has. And Captain Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise would have much more complicated if they were true to reality. It wouldn't be so effortless to be up there.
Charlie, I consider you part of our family here, and thank you. Hope you'll continue to join us in future programs, as we try to do what, Charlie? Open up our minds on amazing things that we don't normally hear about. They're in the day part of our lives because we're busy moving around on planet number 3. Thank you, Charlie. Let's say good morning to Paulie in Westwood. We're on with author and journalist Rod Pyle. How you doing?
Hey, Dr. Sky, I'm sorry. I woke up late and I really missed most of your conversation, but my question from last week was, what's the difference between a planet and a star?
Very good. Well, Ryan, why don't you take that one? You're a guest. I can chime in.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because we should let the astronomer in the room address this, but the planet is smaller than a star, generally doesn't give off heat, or not a lot of it. Terrestrial planets like Mercury, Venus, Mars, and the Earth are rocky cored planets, sometimes with molten inner cores, but they have a rocky crust, the atmosphere of some kind in most cases, and then the larger gas giants are just that. They're big balls of gas, and I don't think at this point those keep you no way different, but I don't know if they've actually confirmed a hard core at the center of those or not. But that's a planet, but a star is something that's got a fusion reaction going on and is burning up hydrogen, giving off heat.
You did a great job on it. You should just say this for I mean, just the same, the same wording. I'll just add this. Fusion, star, planet, more likely minerals. And even though the planets have hard, maybe sometimes molten cores, the difference is usually, no pun intended, astronomical. Stars, for the most part, if you look at the entire universe, are way larger than any planet that we could ever have, and they're usually gravitationally bound to stars. So I don't know if I've added anything extra, Paulie, or maybe hopefully not, Ron. Confused everybody too. That's never my mission. Paulie, you get the last one.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Okay, let's continue here because I did promise that we would do this to the top of the hour. Then obviously callers come first. We will do our Sky Report too during this particular second hour. Let's say good morning to Tom in the great city of Boston. Good morning. You're on with Rod Time. How you doing?
Hello, Dr. Sky. I like that. I didn't get the show earlier, but can I get a little more information on PI Atlas?
Yes, you can. And this is interesting, Brad. I don't want to steal any of your thunder on this either.
Oh, no.
No, this is very interesting. Look, ladies and gentlemen, this is something very serious that I look at. I see and have interviewed all of the people that have talked about the discoveries and have made them of these interstellar comets. And some in the media, again, I'm not going to name names, they want to go on this whole story, and some other people pick up this with incomplete information. 3I Atlas is a extra solar type of a comet. And what's a comet? It's the remains of the creation of the solar system. This is what you're talking about, Tom. This object came from another star system. We know it. The first one was Oumuamua. A good friend of mine discovered it, Rob Warwick. The second one was discovered by a Ukrainian astronomer called Borisov. And this one, the orbits are gigantic. They're hyperbolic shaped, meaning the biggest, widest orbits. This could be an object from another star system, as I mentioned, that's been traveling for hundreds of thousands of years, maybe more. But some in the media are talking about it being exhibiting weirdness, popping out little satellites or something. I don't agree with that. But I don't know, Tom. Have you read anything else about this that you might want to bring to the table? I mean, I look at it as a comet.
Well, I've heard that there's been lights on it, and I got my won't release any pictures of it. But I heard it's acting like it might be extraterrestrial.
Well, let me say this. If it is, I'd be amazed because I think now, let's go to our esteemed colleague, Rod Mile. Rod, from everything you've read, tell me your impressions of what you think this comet is based on what the media is reporting, in your opinion.
So the images are pretty low res. You really can't see much of what's going on. Any weird behavior, as with Oumuamua and Borisov, can be easily explained by melting pockets of ice and so forth, accelerating or decelerating the thing. But to be my comrades in the media, Olivo, Harvard, I'll say it.
I respect the guy. I got no stakes.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great astronomer. He was the chair of the department there for years, but every time we get an interstellar object, he goes off the rails a bit. And, if he just said, as he did kind of at the beginning, tentatively with the first one, we should at least consider the possibility that this could be an interstellar probe. I can live with that. But much like Percival Lowell back in the turn of the 20th century, talking about canals on Mars, Lowell has taken his observations, magnified them dramatically, and come up with fairly illogical conclusions. We all know, as Carl Sagan said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I'm paraphrasing, you get the idea. We don't have that evidence. And
we don't. Let me not cut you short, but this is important because Tom is our focus of attention here. He's calling us from Boston. But here it is. I've observed hundreds of comets. Does that make me the expert in comets? No. Maybe you've observed comets, but here's the point. The evidence that it shows right now from the serious observers of massive big telescopes and space probes things, that it exhibits different behavior than some comets, but not extraordinary differences. And then some in the media, I'm not talking about Dr. Loeb, I respect him highly. Yes, I do. If he wants to go on that, please give us more evidence. But you have some in the media that just jump on this as if it's one of these stories like the shock jock routine, where they're going to say things. I mean, look at the asteroid flow. And Tom, we're talking with you, and everybody listening. We hear every week, and it bothers me tremendously. Not that I can't stand it. How many times do we hear that an asteroid 4 times the size of Taylor Swift is headed toward the Earth? I mean, come on, folks. We have a plethora of asteroids that are coming by us. Let's not sensationalize the thing. We don't want to see one hit us. And believe me, folks, the skies are being watched. Tom, have we put you to sleep at all, or have we helped in this conversation?
No, very interesting, Dr. Sky. Very interesting.
We're giving opinions. But let me say this. If indeed it is an extraterrestrial probe, this is where the people go after this. They call them Bracewell probes. Now, everybody who's not familiar with a Bracewell probe, just look at it up, do Google search or whatever you do. And right, Bracewell probes are these sci-fi concepts of, probes that come from other star systems that may be from intelligent life. But so far, I'm going to go on the side that this is an extraordinary comet because it's an extrastellar object. It comes from other systems. We need more proof. Thank you, Tom. We appreciate you. We appreciate Ron. And guess what? It's time to go to a break. If you haven't gotten on the air, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue with Tony in New Jersey and all you out there at 1-800-848-9222. And Ron, we still want to promise that a Sky Report so we can hear what you had as an experience with the vehicles. We'll be right back. Thanks for your interest.
The views and opinions expressed by the individuals and their guests do not necessarily reflect the policies or positions of WABC Radio, its management, or its sponsors. Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Hands in Footing, hosted by Jen Delon.
Today I'm filming with my favorite person sitting across from me, Mr. Lars Catania. Hi, Jen. I'm so excited to finally be here. This industry breeds paranoia. People turn on you, friends who you never expect stab you in the back because you're always fighting for your spot. Well, it's a double cycle, isn't it? It is. I don't want to call it a circus animal, but it's kind of like a circus act. When I have to look at myself in the mirror, right? So what people don't understand, nobody's making you do these things. Absolutely. NBC isn't calling you and saying you have to do this. It's what you choose to do because you drink the Kool-Aid of wanting to stay in the limelight. Yep. And that is not on our bosses, our producers, it's on anybody. It's what you choose to do with what you have.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. This is 77 WABC Newsroom Extra. The holiday weekend will bring family and friends together, so doctors are warning everybody about a new strain of the flu that's getting a lot of people sick in Japan and in the UK. It's called subclade K, and the flu shot does not cover it.
That creates what we call a mismatch. That increases the concern that the flu might be able to evade our immune response and reduce the effectiveness of the vaccine.
We learned that from the experiences of flu cases across the world, and we're seeing a lot of significant increase across the world, so I know it's going to be here as well. And your family may be too polite, they may not say out loud, they don't want you there if you're sick.
We always have that one family member that's pushed to the cracks.
Yeah, and doctors have another worry this long holiday weekend. The norovirus, the contagious infection commonly known as the stomach bug, is surging across the country. Noah Layton gives you ABC News. This is the Dr. Sky experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hi, I'm Fred Hayes, Apollo 13 lunar module pilot. I'm just happy to do a little chatting about those exciting days back on the mission, now approaching some 50 years. And you're listening to the Dr. Sky Show.
Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it's a profound source of spirituality. Another quote from Carl Sagan. 46 minutes after the hour, ladies and gentlemen, Rod Pyle, journalist, is with us, talking lots of things space, but let's continue on with the phone calls. Let's say good morning to Tony in New Jersey. She's been patiently waiting. Good morning, Tony. How are you doing?
Hi, guys. Hi, Dr. Sky. Hi, Rod. I'm just so excited about what you were saying. I thought I heard you say that President Trump renominated Jared Isaacman to lead NASA. And I'm really excited about that. I think when things are meant to be, they'll be. I think we need to call senators, though, right? Because we have to go through Senate confirmation. And I was also reading that former Speaker Newt Gingrich was one of the people that kind of were in an article that said whispering to the president about him. So I'm really excited. Are you?
Interesting. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, we've had in the past, we had James Webb during the Apollo program, who was from the Bureau of the Budget, that was a fantastic administrator.
primarily because he understood government and knew all the skeletons were buried. So, he was able to like LBJ, kind of push people around and get what he wanted. Since then, we've had engineers, we've had astronauts, we had Jim Epstein, who was a politician, turned out to be a great administrator. So we've had a kind of a wide swath of different personality types. Interestingly, and this is my opinion, the astronauts have generally not been the best administrators. They're very good, driven people who are tremendous overachievers, but that doesn't necessarily cut a swath for you in Washington when you need to go hat in hand and beg for money to keep the agency running, and then they have to do that frequently. And there's also a fair amount of brass knuckle fighting that goes on over things.
There's some politics, but it gets into the political.
Yeah.
Tony, in the interest of time, we want to give you the courtesy of giving a response back if you so choose to do it, and I appreciate everyone who's listening and talking with us on the Dr. Scott's Words. Tony, your comment, if you have one, please continue.
Everyone please call the Senate, your senators, and let them know you want him. I think it would be an excellent fundraiser for NASA.
Thank you, Tony. Always appreciate you, and we hopefully that you will be calling us in the future on many topics that we talk about here. We say good morning to Robert in Philadelphia. Good morning, Robert. Thanks for your patience and your question and comment.
Hi, Dr. Sky and your guests. It's good to talk to you guys. You should call your show the off-ramp to the week's politics, Dr. Sky, because it's so nice to ease into the weekend, you know what I mean?
Well, thank you. I mean, not to cut you short, Robert, tomorrow we're going to be doing a very special guest with American exceptionalism, and that may change it a little bit, but again, I'm always so proud, like everybody else out there who served their country, as we talk of the post-Veterans Day world. But that's an interesting twist. Give us the name again so I can write that one down. Tell me again, Robert, what did you just say?
I'm sorry. Were you asking me for a name?
No, I wanted the name that you told me the show should be. Tell us again, because I want to write it.
The off-ramp from the week's politics, or the Nazis, are both the same thing. I'm going from a little bit of a sci-fi perspective, I know, because I remember the movie 2010. Somehow Jupiter was converted into like a small star. And I'm not necessarily asking if that's hypothetically possible, although if it is, that would be great. But I'm wondering what the difference between a planet like Jupiter and a brown dwarf would be.
Interesting. Very interesting. Rod, you want to jump on that one, or should I take it?
Well, I guess you should take it because, again, my knowledge is limited.
Okay, no.
Working about astronomy in the 1970s, which was, hey, Jupiter's a failed star, and that's what they told us.
Well, here we go, Robert. I mean, God bless. Again, we're having a nice conversation here between all of us. Here we go. When we look at Jupiter, it would have to probably be 80 times its mass, even though it's incredibly large, 88,000 miles in diameter, to start the fusion process to create what a star would do. But here we go. The difference between the two is interesting. Jupiter would be a frustrated object to become a star if it could be 80 times its mass. But a brown dwarf on the other end of the evolution scale is more like almost lights out. And the problematic thing there is it starts to build up a lot of lithium. They call it deuterium. And then what happens eventually, the things actually turn out even to something even smaller, that it goes well deeper than the whole concept of a brown dwarf. It's the end of life, but Jupiter would be, to be bigger, the escalation or the beginning of life. Interesting.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I know that there's a lot of pressure on Jupiter, but it doesn't really have the mass per mile that like Earth would have, you know. But no, that's very interesting. And just as a closing thing before I go, I wish you gentlemen a happy weekend. I hope they turn the new James Webb Telescope into the Pleiades, because I think we'll find something interesting there.
Well, absolutely there, Robert. And right next to the Pleiades, by a few degrees, is Uranus, the planet itself. Let's say good morning to John in the Bronx, trying to get one more caller, and then we promise, right, Rob, this Sky Report. John, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I was thinking, how big is this? You know, we're going to have a book here. There's on the telephone system compared to the M7.
Okay, the star cluster. Well, M7. You just said M7? Right.
Well, M7 is the black hole.
Oh, okay. All right.
After 70 billion now.
Right. The problematic thing is, any black hole, John, not to cut you short, in more likely, in the center of our Milky Way, we have this massive black hole. Size-wise, I can only imagine. But it eats stars for breakfast like you and I would eat a breakfast no matter what our diet calls for. But the problematic thing is our solar system is teeny-weeny, right, Rod, compared to the size of black holes, at least that we think. But the big one in the center of our galaxy, the Milky Way, is just off the charts. That's an amazing story, John. You get the last word.
Compare that to the Cat's Nebula.
That also is a massive object, way, way larger, trillions of times. The Cat's Eye Nebula would be trillions of times, and I'm using a bad number because it's probably bigger than trillions than the entire solar system, which the extent of the solar system, if you want to look at it, Voyager's now about 15 billion miles from the sun. This big Cat's Eye could be many thousands of light years across. Thank you, John in the Bronx. God bless, and I appreciate you. We wanted to do this. We wanted to give a sky report, so here quickly, I'll do this one. Ladies and gentlemen, in the New York metro area and areas in the northern United States, you have been witnessing the aurora borealis. Why? This sunspot, active region 4274, is pumping out at least 5 X-flares over the last few days. It's moving around the edge of the sun to the right. It'll go back on the backside. That's incredible. The most powerful X-flare of this entire solar cycle was back on October 3rd, 2024, X9. These were X2s, X5s, X4s. The higher the X9, the more power. The biggest one we had was way back around November 4th, 2003, an X28, maybe an X45. That would be really serious, not only to see the northern lights, but damage to the sky. Now we move over to Rod 5. Rod, this is the weekend for the Leonid meteor shower. Look on the night of the 16th. You were there in 1966 as the vice governor of 32 So at the tender age of 9, I quite frequently go out in our backyard in Pasadena, California, which was not nearly as well as it is now, and would spend nights staring at the sky, watching meteor showers, and using my little telescope to look at the moon and planets. That night I was out there just curious to see if this kind of not terribly remarkable meteor showers kind of produced that night. And it was bright, as it ran through midnight. It was as if the sky opened up and it was raining shooting stars. I mean, it was, as you know, thousands and thousands per hour. I mean, it was like somebody just turned on this faucet. So I flipped out and ran to my parents and said, guys, we gotta come.
magazine I publishes for the National Space Society, which is nss.org. So you can also reach me through there by just pressing on the media contact.
That's interesting. Always appreciate you, Rod, and your great expertise on the subject matters that you work in. Great stuff in the realms of space, what's happening in the world. And let's hope we get a administrator for NASA, and that gentleman that we talked about, Mr. Isaacman, that we hope he becomes the NASA administrator. I think he earns it from all his experience and, as we say, his bedside manner and his ability to relate to the need for people to want to learn more about the wonders of space and keep that big ball rolling. Thank you, Rod Pyle, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. You know, ladies and gentlemen, finishing up our Sky Report 2, the moon moves on to its new phase. So if you go out in the early morning hours, you want to see something interesting. On the morning of the 19th, the thin, waning crescent moon and the beautiful planet Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, easy to see, about 15 degrees just before dawn. Most amazing sights to see in the sky, no matter where you live. Even in areas that have light pollution, there's always things you can see. And if you're interested, a simple pair of binoculars, ladies and gentlemen, will open up your world as we try to do here on the Dr. Sky Experiments. Thanks to Tony and Bill being our helmsmen, navigating the powerful signal that you would expect from this great radio station. And a thanks to owner and operator John Catsimatidis, and from the executive staff, a thank you to Chad Lopez for giving me the position, the opportunity to sit behind this microphone. We'll see you less than 24 hours or so, and we'll continue the Dr. Sky Experience. Thank you.
This is New York's talk leader, the crown jewel of talk radio. WABC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays. News first at 59 past the hour. 77 WABC News starts now.
77 WABC News at 59 past the hour. It is 36 and cloudy skies on this Sunday, November 30th. Good morning, I'm Liz Radabali. President Donald Trump says he's terminating any document that former President Biden allegedly used an auto pen to sign. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said the number of documents signed with the alleged auto pen was around 92%. He said an auto pen isn't allowed to be used if approval is not given by the president themselves. Trump added Biden was not involved in the process, but if he admits he was, he will bring him up on charges of perjury. The suspect in the shooting of 2 National Guard members on the streets of Washington, D.C. is now facing a murder charge. Correspondent Melanie Zanona reports the Trump administration is taking action after the shooting.
The U.S. Immigration Agency has now launched a re-examination of green card holders from every country of concern. President Trump on Truth Social overnight, vowing to permanently pause migration from all third world countries.
Another Guard member shot in the incident. Andrew Wolf remains in the hospital in critical condition. Suspected shooter, an Afghan national who was with the U.S. to fight the Taliban, was also shot and remains hospitalized. The Trump administration is increasing fees for foreign visitors at Yosemite and 10 other major national parks. Shannon Reardon has the details.
Beginning January 1st, international tourists will pay an extra $100 per person on top of regular entry fees, while a non-resident annual America the Beautiful pass jumps to $250. Officials say the hike will boost maintenance funding. The rollout also includes a redesigned annual pass featuring portraits of George Washington and Donald Trump, a move drawing backlash from conservation advocates. The San Francisco Chronicle reports small operators near Yosemite and other parks say the higher costs could discourage long-haul travelers who support gateway communities. I'm Sharon Reardon.
President Trump says South Africa will not be invited to next year's G20 summit in the U.S., a move the country is calling regrettable. The Global Forum of the world's largest economy has held its annual summit in Johannesburg this year, and no high-ranking American officials were in attendance due to Trump's claims that the white ethnic minority in South Africa are the victims of genocide. This week, Trump posted on Truth Social that South Africa will not be receiving an invitation to the 2026 G20, which will be hosted in Miami. Trump wrote, South Africa has demonstrated to the world they are not a country of membership anywhere. The city is rolling out an app asking New Yorkers to report any noise. Peace and quiet, not so common here in the city, but longtime New Yorkers don't really seem to have a problem with that.
Noise is part of New York. I don't think you can do anything about that.
The city's Department of Environmental Protection has launched the NYC Noise app, allowing people to record the sounds they're hearing, whether that's loud sirens or construction, and submit it to the app. It does not record the actual sound, but it does analyze the noise level based on frequency, tracking where and what time it happened, all while protecting personal data. Officials caution anyone who wants enforcement action will still need to call 311. After a bit of a break, the Thanksgiving travel rush is expected to pick back up again. Tammy Trujillo has the story.
The TSA says Sunday could set a new record at U.S. airports with more than 3 million passengers expected to pass through security checkpoints. Monday is forecast to be the second busiest travel day of the holiday period. For those headed home by car, AAA warns that road congestion will likely peak on Sunday, making Saturday a better option for people who hope to avoid delays. Forecasters also caution the weather remains the big X factor, as a winter storm's expected to drop up to a foot of snow across portions of the Midwest through the weekend. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Speaking of travel, an expert is giving some advice on lowering the chances of getting sick while traveling during the holiday season. Dr. Donald Dumford, an infectious disease specialist at the Cleveland Clinic, says washing your hands frequently and wiping down any high-touch surfaces like shared armrests or food trays on a plane can go a long way.
We need to think about getting our flu vaccine and consider getting our COVID vaccine, especially for those that are elderly or have a compromised immune system. Don't just consider about your own health status, but think about the health status of those around you.
Dumford says those traveling internationally should consult with a doctor to see if any other precautions are needed, such as getting a booster shot for measles. Now your forecast today, it's going to be some scattered light rain showers with a high of 47 degrees tonight and overnight. Skies to clear with a low of 35. 36 and cloudy. I'm Liz Radabali. Remember, the news, it never stops at WABCRadio.com.
It's the holiday season. Step into comfort with dress shoes, winter boots, or high-quality sneakers, and get the perfect gift this year at Eric Comfort Shoes. With Black Friday savings up to 40% off, all boots drastically reduced. Visit their flagship store, 426 Hillside Avenue in Williston Park, Long Island. All major brands, full range of sizes, widths from 4 to 18, narrow to extra wide. Shop in store or online. Free shipping and free returns throughout New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Go to ericshoes.com. That's ericshoes.com. Remember, life is a journey. Wear comfortable shoes.
This is John Gatsmatis. Since we bought WABC Radio, we became #1 in the country with millions and millions of listeners. We have been certified by Nielsen to be the #1 talk station in the country. Advertising? If you advertise with WABC, you will be a winner too. Why don't you email me at CATS, C-A-T-S, at WABCRadio.com, and you advertise with winners. You become a winner.
Along the nation's southern border, the water war is underway. Texas state Republican leadership now demanding that Mexico live up to its water delivery obligations under a long-standing international treaty. Agriculture Commissioner in Texas, Sid Miller, says farmers need this water to survive.
We grow year-round down there. Those farmers will grow 4, 5, 6 crops of vegetables. This last year they grew 1. That's it. We've lost a bunch of our citrus groves down there, lack of water. They bulldoze those out. It's not just farmers, it's cities, it's everybody.
Miller says the issue is killing Texas's farmers, adding it's vital Mexico pay its water debt because a statewide drought is taking its toll. Governor Greg Abbott joined the effort, saying Mexico must be held accountable, and the pair have been pressing their case with President Trump, who promises to help. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
Red Allah. Good morning, family. Hello there. It is me. It's TJ McCormick here on Another Side of Midnight. All around the U.S. on the Red Apple Audio Network. Hope you guys are good. Nice to be back with you. Here with Bill and Yuri. Good stuff. Yes. Hypnotized. Right on into the sunrise. Here we go. All right. So, hello there, and how are you? We are here on a Sunday morning. It's Sunday morning. It's 9 minutes after the hour, and I had a prediction that I thought was all mine. I thought for sure that I was going to be breaking ground about a week ago, and it turns out I was actually, I'll call it a tie with the story coming out that caught me off guard. I was going to come out with this big prediction that within a very, very short period of time, that Santa and the legend of Santa and the whole aura of Santa Claus would be doomed, is doomed, and would be gone within, I was going to come out and say within 5 years, that the age of Santa and kids believing in Santa Claus would be gone. And it was really, in stand-up comedy, my friends and I back in the late 80s, we came up with a phrase. And I don't know, we all sort of stipulated to a phrase. The consensus was parallel development. If someone was to have an idea and to have a bit, have material that was ours, and we developed it on our own, and we didn't know, this is before social media. Before social media, and, the only thing would be when somebody got on MTV's half-hour comedy hour, remember that show? Or Dangerfield, or something like that. Evening at the Improv, Caroline's Comedy Hour. Oh my God. Wow, that's a time warp. Anyway, other than those TV shows, you really didn't, or if you worked with some other comic on the road. So it would be called parallel development, would be an innocent development of material that you had no idea if somebody else was doing something very similar, or the same bit, or the same concept. I'll try to remember what I had about 2 or 3 bits that turns out some of the comics, I saw it on TV and I was like, oh man, and they got the TV first. And that was how you got ownership, basically, is whoever got on TV first with it. And there you go. Anyway, similarly, here I was last Saturday, and I think it was Saturday. Could have been Friday. But I was sitting there with this idea that based on social media and Googling and AI and all of this stuff, ChatGPT, that kids, through no fault of their own, and by the way, if anybody is sitting with a child now, turn me off. a moment. Put the volume down because I don't want to blow. So you have a moment or two here to, if for some reason, at 11, 12, 1, or 2 in the morning, here in America, if you're sitting there with a child who's me, I don't know why they'd be up, but if you got like a toddler or something like that, turn me. Anyway, I thought that I was having this unique idea that if because of artificial intelligence and smart speakers and all these ways that kids would ultimately learn the truth about Santa because of their inquiring minds and their inquisitive. And basically what used to be, if they would go to mom or dad at a very, very, very young age and ask, mom or dad would say, of course Santa's real. Of course he is. Now you go back to sleep, or now you go make that wish list, or you stay on the good list. Don't you end up on that? Because, of course Santa, and he's coming. I think most parents had that moment with their kid when they come and they're really young. And then, then you have to cross that bridge when you do come to it, when the child comes to you and they're, 12, 11, 12. Not 13, right?